Welcome back to ZOS Introduction. This is the 15th video in the series. You will learn how ZOS manages data on disk volumes using a disk volume table of content and extents. ZOS can access thousands of disk storage devices. For the purpose of this lesson, view each disk storage device as a range of physical locations on the disk storage device. Disk cylinder head record is used to identify the beginning and ending location within the entire range of physical locations on a disk storage device. A disk storage device extent is used to hold data. Each extent is a contiguous area on the disk device with an absolute beginning and ending location. A table located on the disk storage device called a VTOC maintains the disk storage device free space and extent allocations for previously allocated data sets. The following chart is a diagram of the information on this chart. ZOS identifies all connected disk storage volumes at startup. A ZOS system catalog keeps track of dataset names and their disk storage volume labels. Locating a specific dataset name starts with a lookup of the disk storage volume label for the requested dataset name. The locate is directed to the specific disk storage volume label. ZOS locates the dataset name with an inquiry of the disk storage volume VTOC, where the VTOC knows the dataset physical location on the disk storage volume. The data records identified by the dataset name is stored in one or more dataset name extents. Starting in the upper left of the chart, an IBM Z has fiber optic channel connections to disk storage controllers with disk storage devices. The IBM Z ZOS operating system is aware of available disk volume labels and respective disk device address. The disk volume label knows the location of the disk storage volume table of content VTOC. The VTOC maintains a table of the dataset names and free space on the disk storage device. In the case of dataset name my.data, the VTOC knows the starting and ending location of the primary extent. All datasets have a primary extent containing data. If the primary extent fills up, then a secondary extent with a different starting and ending location is created to hold more data. The number of secondary extents possible is dependent upon the type of dataset. My.data has one primary and one secondary extent, where your.data has only a primary extent. Dataset names are physically allocated on disk storage devices in extents, where an extent is a contiguous area on the disk storage device. Several ways to create new datasets on a disk storage device, such as using TSO allocate command, ISPF option 3.2 panel, and JCL job control language, that is discussed later in the video in the ZOS introduction series. When creating a new dataset name, the size of primary extent and secondary extent is specified. The chart has two displays, labeled 1 top and 2 bottom. The top display is the ISPF dataset list utility panel, where only a disk storage volume label is provided. The bottom display is the result that shows only 25 dataset names on the volume, which includes the VTOC index and a special VVDS dataset that stores information about vSAM cluster components. The chart has two displays labeled 1 top and 2 bottom. The top display is using system utility ditto to display VTOC information sorted by extent. The bottom display is the result that shows the extent number in the column labeled EXT SEQ. The extent sequence 0 is the primary extent. The output is sorted by extent. Observe the columns to the right of the extent sequence. These columns contain the beginning and ending cylinder and head location, followed by relative track number and the number of tracks used for the extent. The same extent output shows vendor.clist with 15 secondary extents and location of free extents with length of the free extent, which is available for new dataset allocations that would fit within the free extent area. The previous chart showed vendor.clist extent number 0, which is the single primary extent allowed. In summary, ZOS manages data on disk storage volumes using a disk volume table of content VTOC and allocation of one primary extent, and when the primary extent fills up, then secondary extents are allocated. The number of secondary extents depends upon the type of data set. Thank you for your time.